Mankind must put an end to war. A war will put an end to mankind.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Well, I'm not drunk. I learned everything I got.
Change will not come if we wait for someone first.
Hello, guys. Welcome to Blind Partisan. I'm Jacob. This is Elliot.
Hey,
Elliot's going to
Jacob.
tell us what we're talking about today. We're just going to get right into it.
I think we're going to talk about. You gave me the topic of violence.
Yeah.
If I move my microphone, does that make a lot of noise?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right.
So we are planning on talking about violence today, and that's a pretty generic word. But as this show goes, we're going to talk about current events primarily.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know.
Maybe.
You gave me the topic. You didn't give me the
Current
angle on
events,
it.
while also talking. Well,
So you're thinking specifically.
it's your show, man.
the Philadelphia thing.
Maybe.
Okay.
Is that what you want to talk about?
Right. Or
Or
was it Philadelphia or Pittsburgh? I'm
it was
terrible.
Pittsburgh. Good job, man.
Sorry,
The
I shouldn't laugh about violence, but
No.
I'm laughing at my mistake.
Also, we can talk about the big thing a few weeks ago with the pipe bombs and terrorism.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so I don't put that in the same vein of violence, but okay.
No, that's fair.
But
'cause
it's fine.
No one got hurt, but the
Yeah.
intimidation, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what all this stuff stems from.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's what terrorism is, right?
Right,
It's
right.
trying to spread terror through acts, right?
So yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So whenever people go on their tirades about like we need to ban all the guns, we need everyone to have a file with the FBI as to their mental health status. These are uniquely un-American ideas, and I really come down hard on people who really push for these things, mostly because all these things get huge headlines. America is safer than it's ever been. The world is really safer than it's ever been, and we're uniquely safe in the world.
So I have a fun question for you. Just to put perspective, because this is a topic you and I have discussed a lot, people.
Yeah.
And we know we have got pretty different views, right?
I'm
On
sure
this.
you're,
I'm sure we do.
You're a communist. Yeah.
Oh. Wow. So what I want you
Oh, I'm sorry. You're a democratic communist.
Okay. What I want you to do is I want you to explain to me the views of three different sides of the gun control issue.
Okay.
I want you to tell me what a hard left response to it is. A
Hard left,
hang on,
yeah.
Let me go through them all.
Yeah.
Hard right. And I also want you to tell me what the moderate response is.
Well, I don't know.
Like in your head, what would you consider a good middle ground? Plus, what is the hard left, hard right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it depends on what your definition of hard left and hard right
That's
are.
why I'm asking you.
Yeah. I mean, so to me, I define the hard right as being the Trump Republicans.
They are pretty hard right.
Is that what you're kind of thinking?
I'm not giving any
Yeah,
comment.
all right.
It's your
And the hard left would be Bernieites, whatever the name is.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'll take the Trump Republicans first. So my perception to that is their response is violence is, hopes and prayers and more guns is better. And I love guns and NRA.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. They're not philosophical about it. They're just like, don't take my guns. Okay. There's no philosophy. They're just, it's all about, it's sort of a bit selfish, like that part, because they're not acknowledging the violence as being an issue. They're not acknowledging their role in the violence. They're not acknowledging their role in racism or, class warfare, any of the things that kind of bubble over and spill into violence or attempted violence, like the bombing. So that's what I kind of perceive the current Republican view on things. Maybe I'm perceiving that wrong, but I think I think non-Republicans view it that way. This is what y'all are about. So the far left, I think, is we need to just get rid of all the guns. Everybody should, have ponytails and flowers in their hair, and free education, and nobody should have to work. And if you do work, you should get to do whatever you want to do. You should be able to be podcasters if you want, and get paid
what kind
lots
of
money.
idiot would want to be a podcaster?
But the main thing is they view the Constitution, which the everybody else would cite. They view that Second Amendment as outdated. Where they think, they always go to the AR-15 did not exist when the Constitution was written. And do you think nukes are fine? So they go all in on crazy land when people want to keep their ability to bear arms.
Okay.
And I think that they would be in favor of having an FBI profile on everybody, listing their mental status, as well as not letting anybody have guns. So then the medium, the middle, is we need to, and I'm not even classifying myself as moderate in the middle, but I think I don't know. Do you agree with those first two?
Mostly.
Okay. All right. So I'll quickly go through this, and then you can.
Okay.
Yeah. So the moderate response, I think, is, we're going to have to come to some kind of a middle at some point, or we're just going to keep, tectonically shifting the two-party system. I think there will have to be some sort of rules on the high-end weaponry. I think most people want that. I think people, until they really think about it, they keep saying mental health. You gotta be really careful with that, because I don't want my government knowing what medications I'm on or not on. I don't want my government having a file on things that I've said to my therapist. I don't want those things to be available. I don't think that's right. And if we talk about mental health in relation to whether you should be able to get a weapon or not, I don't see any. They have to have a file. It has to be accessible information. I think that's. I get afraid of that, but I think that most people want that. I think they want some rules on guns, and they want some mental health database.
So
until they recognize, oh wait, I'm on Prozac.
the first thing I have to say is right before you got into the moderate thing.
Yeah.
The first comment you said was, I don't know if I'd consider myself moderate.
Yeah.
Right? First thing I'd like to say is that's really cool that you'd even say that, because I feel like there's this mentality where everyone thinks
they're moderate.
Yeah.
Just like everyone thinks they're a good driver.
Right. But, being able to admit that, no, maybe my own views are a little extreme. I feel like that's kind of not that common right now.
Well, I'm subjected to this far right and far left living in Green Bay, Wisconsin all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I know I don't fit into either of those molds. So that when I say extreme, I think my viewpoint should be considered moderate. Like, let's respect the Constitution, but let's respect the whole Constitution. Let's respect my privacy rights and my gun rights.
So where would you think I am on that scale? And where would you think you are on that scale? Like, if it was from 1 to 10, with 1 being far left, 10 being far right.
I think you're probably a 3. I'm probably a 8.
Those are some interesting numbers.
Yeah.
Do you have reasoning for them?
I don't think you're in favor of banning all weapons.
No.
I don't think I'm unrealistic enough to realize there will never be any rules of any kind on weapons.
Right.
I think we both would be against some kind of mental health database.
So, believe it or not, yeah. That's so first thing is,
I think that's
someone
crazy
who,
talk.
Follows a lot of the left-leaning circles and whatnot.
Right.
I don't see that often. I have seen it. I'm not going to say I haven't, right? But primarily it's
ban all guns.
No, you shouldn't be allowed to have guns if you're mentally ill.
Yeah.
I don't see that.
Well, both sides say that. So the Republicans are like, hey, there shouldn't be any rules on guns. there should be rules against crazy people with guns. Oh, well, okay, let's dig into that. What does that mean?
The first problem is how do you define that?
Right.
And going with a personal anecdote, I know someone who is a diagnosed schizophrenic who owns guns.
Sure.
And you know what? I have absolutely no problem with that.
Right.
The person I'm speaking of, totally normal person, just, has some problems mentally or, is different mentally, whatever the PC term is, right?
Right.
But no problems there, and they're used for hunting. Hunting's a great thing here in Wisconsin. It's a big pastime, but it's also, relaxing and a good coping mechanism for people, right?
Absolutely.
I see no problem with that. And the question is, where do you define who shouldn't have them for mental health reasons?
I don't.
I mean, should I not own one because
If you're
I
not
can't
in
see very well?
if you're not in prison, you should absolutely be able to vote whatever you were in prison for. Once your term is up, you're a citizen. Straight up. You should be able to own a gun. You should be able to drink alcohol. You should be able to smoke pot, and you should be able to vote.
You did your time.
Yeah. And we just have these. You said everyone thinks they're moderate. Everyone also thinks that they are puritanical, and everyone else is evil. We and this is not an American thing where we judge others by their actions and ourselves by our intentions, but the throw the book at people that mess up a little bit, that is uniquely American. We have a disturbing problem with that.
We do.
And,
It's like the land of the free, except if you do things we don't like, and also except if you've ever done anything wrong.
Yeah. But in the song, it's the land of the free and the home of the brave. And this is where the two parties, they latch onto one of those items, but neither of them embraces both of those items.
Which one latches onto which?
So in this case, like the far right, as we're classifying it, they're all about freedom. Freedom. I got my gun, right?
Yeah.
But the right is all about, they're not brave. The left is completely not brave. They are the opposite of brave. The far left, and whatever, most people are probably moderate, right? I mean, I know more people think they're moderate than are, but the far left, they are not brave. They're afraid of guns. They're afraid of everything. They're afraid of being called names. They have to have safe spaces on colleges. This is the far left.
I'm not a safe space person.
No.
And
but do you condemn those who are?
I go, well, that's stupid.
But
I'm not like.
But more of that needs to happen because it's the
in
path
some
to
ways,
insanity.
The irony with that is that's limiting freedom, right?
Right.
While also
Right.
giving a different type of freedom, where it's like you
Not
have the
giving any
freedom to
freedom.
feel how you want to in our space, but also you have the not freedom to, say things you want to. It's weird.
We explicitly have freedom of speech. This is just at the core.
But there are
of America.
limits to freedom of speech.
Right?
You can't. The famous example of you can't shout fire in a crowded theater, right?
Right. So for one thing, that's false. If there is no fire,
Right.
so that's you're saying false in a public setting, right?
Right. There are some things
But
you are
like that is really the only limit,
There are a couple limits,
and that's only because it infringes on everyone's safety. A majority, but when it's a one-on-one thing, I should be able to say anything I want about you.
You should face the consequences. Yes.
Yeah, you can be pissed off at me.
Yeah.
But
if I tell Elliot, some really bad things, and he punches me in the face.
as soon as we go down the path of feelings getting hurt,
Yeah.
it hurts my feelings to not be able to say what I want to say. Right. So I mean, where do you draw the line? The whole thing is insane.
So, I think having a mental health ban on guns is, although I guess sound logic in theory, not practical.
Categorically un-American.
That's probably true. But what about the other argument of some weapons should be banned?
I think that it's sort of like security theater, like the TSA, right? The worst issues, like I guess the AR-15 is kind of the poster child.
The poster child.
But AR-15s are used for hunting. So I sure something like that might end up banned, and only the criminals will have them then. But
I hate that argument.
but it's totally true.
Is it?
We're not going to be able to collect up all the ones that exist.
No.
So there's going to be a black market.
There will be a black market, but there will be a black market for anything. The thing
Okay.
is, and even if not, first of all, the majority of people who use those types of weapons get them legally. The majority of weapons that are sold illegally on the black market,
Sure.
I'd assume, are small handguns, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You'd agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
So I don't think that argument, like, let's say AR-15, we'll use the poster child, even though I don't like using it. Let's say the AR-15 is banned, and we get one case of someone using an illegally bought black market AR-15 to shoot someone out, or to shoot up a school or something, right? Is that sound logic to say, well, if that's going to happen, then we just shouldn't, allow AR-15s. We should just let them, run wild.
So
If there's a decrease, even if, the criminals have it, but the Good Samaritan doesn't, who cares?
So do you think that a law?
We're not banning the police from having them, right?
Okay.
I don't know if the police use AR-15. I doubt it. They have other weapons, but
So do you believe that a law should be a reflection of your values, or it should be a practical thing that is enforceable and makes a difference?
I think, like many things, it's somewhere in the middle.
I think that's insane. So just having a law because, well, we hate guns, so we're making a law banning guns just because, like, it's the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah,
No,
we're not.
It has to have some kind of practical ramifications, or we end up with a bookshelf full of laws that all of us are violating all the time.
Like those funny, it's illegal in Texas to
Yes.
have ice cream in your back pocket.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like it's insane. And I always label those KGB laws because it reminds me of Soviet Russia, where everything's against the law, so everyone's always breaking the law, so the KGB can always break into your house and do whatever they need to do. And like that is un-American. Like passing all these laws. I know we've been passing laws all the way along since the beginning, right? But the idea of that, I don't think the people 200 years ago understood, if we're going to talk about like what they understood when they wrote the Constitution. I don't think they understood that we would just have this massive stack of laws. I don't think that was anyone's intention, and I think they would have done things differently.
We mentioned how there are exceptions to the First Amendment, right? There are
Almost none.
some exceptions.
Almost none.
The exceptions, like, the fire in a crowded theater. You also, it is illegal to say some things, like it's illegal to threaten people in office. I'm not going to say those words out loud because, threatening to injure someone.
Yeah,
is in
an
office.
actual threat.
Yes.
Like though that is, but that is a threat.
Right. But there are some things that you could be arrested for just for saying a specific phrase, right?
Usually those are location dependent. You don't have universal free speech everywhere you
Right.
go.
So the one argument I don't understand is the people saying, well, all guns should be allowed. How can there be exceptions to rules 1, 3 through 28 or whatever we have right now,
Yeah.
but not 2?
Yeah. I mean, so I understand your point. I think what I would say to that is that the speech argument is it's more location dependent than situational. If I say I'm going to kill you, Jacob, everyone knows that that's just that's a figure of speech.
But there's no context to shooting someone in the face. You're still shooting them in the face.
Okay.
Right?
It's illegal to shoot people in the face already.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the thing. There's a difference between owning a gun and owning a voice and using it.
Right.
So, like, you can't shoot people. Like, that's already illegal. It's already illegal.
Unless you're a police officer, of course.
Well, and
they get
even
away
so,
with it a
so in the
lot.
case of police officers or even a regular person, a regular citizen, it's fine to shoot someone if it's in self-defense. Like, that is I think everyone would agree with.
If it's determined by a court to be self-defense, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it is self-defense, I mean, that, we determine that in a court.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which it should go to the courts, you know.
I agree with that.
Hey, agreement.
Well, otherwise you have chaos.
Right. I feel like when it comes to the current cases, there are other fundamental problems. For example,
Yeah.
do you feel our media on both sides has a play in it? In, you know, we've had so many mass shootings, honestly, it's hard to keep track, right?
No, it's actually really easy to keep track, and we haven't had that many.
We have a lot.
All of them are bad.
I mean, Australia's had like one shooting in the past 40 years.
They're a tiny country.
So what? We've probably had more shootings in Wisconsin than they've had, you know, in that entire time frame as a country.
So,
I'm not trying to go, oh, well, this place has no guns, so they have.
So there are huge differences between the United States and every other country.
Yeah, I'm not trying to go down that road. I'm saying, though, I do feel there are a considerable amount of mass shootings in this country. Regardless of why or how or anything, there is a fact they exist. Do you feel that the way our media, either left, right, center, who cares, do you feel they do the right thing when they portray those stories? Should they portray them? Should they, you know, politicize them? There's always that argument. You know, if a shooting happens to go along with your values in any messed up way. First of all, it's messed up that you can politicize a shooting in the first place, right? But there's always an argument of, you know, if it's a shooting by a Trump supporter, well, you know, this is Trump's rhetoric. That's the fault. Oh, and then the other side goes, oh, shame on you. You're politicizing a tragedy, right?
Yeah.
And then if it's a shooting from a brown person, it's, oh, well, we need a border wall. Oh, well, shame on you for politicizing this tragedy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think this is all going to get better at some point, but this whole 24-hour news cycle with the injection of questionable news sources, you know, mix in a little bit of the freedom of the internet that allows the crazies to find each other. Yeah, I mean, it's. Are they politicizing it? Yeah, of course they are, but they're talking to their people. And, you know, okay, so every business wants to grow. I think once Fox News and CNN, MSNBC, you know, wherever you think these guys all lean politically, if you think they have any kind of slant at all, I think they're going to gravitate towards the middle just because their market is it's not going to grow.
I don't feel they do.
They don't yet, but I think that
maybe CNN.
I think it's inevitable, and especially as people drop cable, I think that that's just.
I feel like the opposite's true. I feel like
they dig in.
They dig in to retain the viewers they do.
I think that's short term, though. I think once we free ourselves of traditional cable television, I think the options available on the internet, you know, even like what we're doing, right? I think that just opens up a lot more opportunity for different viewpoints. And I think this echo chamber of there's two sides and you got to be on either, you know, you got to be on team A or team B and everything about the other team is terrible. Like, I think that's toxic. Well,
it is toxic.
And I think it's going to get better.
I don't think
it's going to take time though. It's not going to be better anytime soon.
No, that's for sure.
But I think 10 years out, and maybe it'll be due to some kind of big clash over something, right? But I think in some way things are going to get better.
You saying we're going to have a civil war?
I wouldn't. No, I don't actually think that. But
would the right win because they have all the guns?
Well, that's the fear, right?
Would the left fight the right with their safe spaces?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, you talk about like, you know, when people compare the right to Nazis, I don't agree with that because they're not shutting down free speech in the same kind of way.
Okay, but
But there
There are Nazis in the right. I'm not saying the right are Nazis,
I know, and they need to get rid of those people.
and they don't.
Yeah.
I mean, our president
Yeah.
will not condemn Nazis. We've learned this already.
Yeah.
Like, hands down, he will not condemn them.
Right.
He won't condemn white supremacists of any kind. I mean, he got, what's his name? David Duke.
Yep.
Back in the election.
I know.
Endorsed him, and it took him days to say, no, I don't want your endorsement.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We have learned that. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're right, left, black, white,
Right.
purple,
Right.
green,
Yep.
whatever.
Yeah.
That's wrong.
It is. And there's no excuse for it.
No. And the scary thing is, I feel like if that had happened 20 years ago, if someone in our political sphere, let's say there was an issue with neo-Nazis,
Yeah.
right? And President George Bush Sr. said there are good people on both sides. I think he'd be crucified politically.
Yeah. We've slid backwards.
Yeah.
You know, the last remnants of the pre and slightly post baby boom generation, like, you know, they're aging out of the system, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, it's going to be a while.
I feel like there aren't punishments anymore for politicians. I feel like almost, besides, you know, a big wave in an election season like we may be having
Ideologically, there's no repercussions. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, their actual actions, you know, if they did anything particularly racist themselves, or they did anything of a sexual nature themselves, there are definitely repercussions for that.
for some of them. Some of them get away with it.
Well, get away with it is a strong word, because
Yes,
they all
but-
kind of like they almost never get prosecuted,
Right.
but they usually have to resign.
Some of them stay, though.
Yep. Well, like
I'm
Trump.
trying to think of a. Well, yeah.
I mean, if you believe his own words, he was, you know, easily worse than Al Franken. But
I mean,
whatever.
Trump specifically, there are no punishments for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if
No
they're-
matter what he does.
yeah, and
He
if,
could go on TV right now on Fox News and say the N-word 1,000 times and he would not be punished.
well, because he can pass an executive order rewriting the Constitution, you know, and he inherited that.
Where are
from-
the constitutionalists who's...
dude? It's a slippery slope, though. You know, like this has been happening slowly over the last 40 years. You let all the previous presidents do it. You know, Reagan to Clinton to Obama.
I don't feel
The
any of
Bushes,
them
they-
directly said, we are going to write a executive order that completely undermines the Constitution, did they?
Any executive order does. There should be no executive orders
I don't know if...
other than to say this executive order is to enforce a law that was lawfully passed by Congress.
I don't think...
That's not the president's place.
In some areas it is.
No,
You know, the
it's
president directly...
absolutely not.
The president directly has control over the military. That's one example. You know, they're allowed to give executive orders. So, like Obama, you know, he used an executive order to allow trans people in the military, gay people in the military, right?
Yep.
Trump did the same to try and get rid of them.
Yep.
That's fine. I'm going to say that. Our president, we've also decided over the past 40, 50 years, has a little extra control than we used to allow over the direction.
But
of
you
the
understand,
economy.
like,
I'd say our president using executive orders to make adjustments to the economy is within their realm of.
so you know, the whole trans in the military thing.
Yeah.
We're both more okay with that because we're both okay with that as an action.
I think if
I don't think
someone's-
it's okay.
I
for the
think if an
president to do that.
American is brave enough to, you know,
But that's your that's your
over?
opinion, and if we want that to be the law, then it should go through Congress.
but the president is the chief of the military.
Yeah, and I
know?
I get that. I get that to a certain extent.
That's one of their primary jobs since the beginning was, you know, run our military. So I'd say they have full control of that.
right?
with-
But the president is the executive, so the president is in charge of everything.
I think the president should be allowed to use executive orders, but there are the three
Okay, so I'm
exceptions.
sorry that I went down this tangent because we
No.
totally should debate this executive order thing.
Tangents are fine, right? I see 3 checks
Terrible.
on it. We have 3 checks. 1, executive orders cannot overrule actual legislation. I think that's fine. I think we need executive orders, especially since Congress is out of session so much. We don't have a 24/7 Congress.
Which is good.
Yeah.
They should be there for about 2 weeks a year, and they should go home.
That would be cool. But that would give the president more power, I'd say.
Well, not if every year they come back and say, what the hell have you been doing?
Two,
we're going to shut some of this stuff down.
Our courts can shut down.
Yep.
So, I mean, the travel ban got shut down a couple of different times because of different things until it was adjusted, right?
Right.
And what was the third one I was going to say? I forgot the third check on it. Oh, there are some things he simply can't do because of the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Except apparently now he thinks he can.
Right. I worry about that.
Yeah, that's scary.
And people who have been paying attention have worried about that for a long time.
That's frightening.
Yeah.
That is, what would you call someone who's in head of power in our government that can dictate any change they want
Absolutely.
to our Constitution?
But this is why I've been against federalizing healthcare, because I don't want Trump in charge of my healthcare. That's a terrible idea. And it's amazing, I mean, so bringing this back full circle,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is the fundamental problem. Nobody wants their freedom or their safety dictated by the worst person they can imagine of the opposite party, and this is why they both dig in on both sides of this.
So, do you think we will ever have an answer to the gun control problem? I know we've been focusing primarily on the gun control aspect of, violence and domestic terrorism and whatnot. But I think it is one of the most important discussions that comes from it. Every time there's a shooting, no matter who it is, the debate over gun control gets reignited, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there will ever be a solution that everyone will be happy with?
Well, I mean, so the school shootings are troubling, but I don't think the solution is gun control to that. I think the solution is not treating children like prisoners in school, where they want to lash out like that. I mean,
What about
that's
adults
clearly a
coming
problem.
into the schools?
Yeah, because that's happened how many times?
A couple.
It's happened like once, and that was a kid who his mom worked at the school.
I don't know what the deal is. How about the argument that teachers should have guns?
I think if they want to, I think that's fine.
I find that scary for
Why?
safety reasons.
Why?
Because of
I think that should be up to the district.
what happens if
That should be up to the
a
district.
student who wants to shoot up the school takes the gun.
I think that should be up to the district.
Okay.
They can require training of their employees. I think that's an employee issue.
To be fair, I
don't-
went to a school where there was at least one gun in the school.
Okay.
They had like one of those police officers who's always on staff. That
Yeah.
person had a gun.
A lot of schools have
Yeah.
a police officer that's assigned to the school, even if they're not on premises all the
Right.
time. Yeah, and they'll have a weapon. And I've never heard of a bad thing happening because of that.
I don't know.
So I think it's fine, but it should be up
Do
to
you
it should be up to the school. I don't think they. So on the other hand, I don't think anyone is saying absolutely teachers should be required to have a gun, even if they're uncomfortable with it. Nobody's saying that.
Do you? I know some states have quote unquote settled this issue for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
but what's your opinion on requiring people to get training in order to buy a gun?
I think that should be up to overall for people.
Do you think that's a good idea, bad idea? Say
Requiring them to
say
get
there was
training.
a law that said you have to take a 5-hour course on gun safety before you can own a gun.
Yeah, but you know what that'll be. So like I had to take a thing to get a bartender license.
Okay, I didn't even know you had a bartender's license. The more you know.
Yeah, so I mean, I got it so that we can legally sell beer and wine at events for the film festival, right?
Okay.
And it is silly because you just take an online thing, and you have to get X amount right, and then you're done.
Okay.
Is it better than nothing? I don't know. Not really. I don't think that there's any point in it. You can make the law, and if you don't understand the law, you should, I think the market will provide you with courses to take. But I making it the law, I think, is protecting bad people who are going to just check the box and hurting good people who would be otherwise able to take those, positions, right? So,
Do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share? Like a grand statement to wrap everything up?
I think we because of the 24-hour news cycle, I think people are. This is not the land of the free and the home of the brave anymore. I think people are afraid, and they shouldn't be. I've walked in the worst cities, worst quote unquote in this country at night, taking public transportation. I haven't felt any more or less afraid. And yep, okay, I'm a white male, so I guess I'm impervious to feelings.
I'm just afraid of those caravans, man.
Yeah. So our country is safer than it's ever been. We have cameras everywhere for good or bad. I think this whole violence thing is overblown. That is not to say that individual acts of cowardice, terrorism should not be shunned and we should not draw lessons from. But I think that we tend to have these knee-jerk overreactions to things, which is human. I mean, that's a human
And I think we
reaction.
should work on, there's always the argument of, are we turning these people who do terrible, violent acts into celebrities? That argument's been done since Columbine. And for the most part, I think that's true.
Yeah. And that's unfortunate. And it's an artifact of the 24-hour news cycle. I don't think we have a solution for that.
No.
Unless, the average person starts shunning that sort of activity.
But I think we need a better solution than thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, unfortunately, thoughts and prayers is silly.
Yeah.
But I think we need to remove the toxic anger and hatred of people that have beliefs that are different from ours. I think that's the main thing.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up there with that good lesson.
Cool.
We're going to say goodbye. Elliot's going to do all the outro.
All right. Please leave a rating and a review on the Apple Podcast app. And please hit the bell on the YouTube if you're looking at my beautiful face right now.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, it is your fault. You made me do it. Please share the show. Please leave some comments on our Facebook group. We have a Blind Partisan Facebook group. Please give your views on this issue. I think it is an important issue for everybody to discuss and everybody to be heard.
But hopefully discussing civilizedly. But it is the internet, so,
Right. We mostly do okay with that.
Yeah.
So that's it. We're out.
See you.